snabb och smakfull måltid. Nya
Hallå! Alright. Ska vi se om vi kan göra så här. Boom. Så får vi flytta över den här också. Så. Vart tog den här vägen nu? Den får vi flytta över dit. Eller dit för den sakens skull. Och så flyttar vi över den dit. Oj. Och så går vi in på YouTube. Ja, det spelar ingen roll, men... Okej. Dålig kvalle. Vad är det som har hänt med YouTubes livestreams? Varför är det så jävla dålig kvalle på YouTubes livestreams numera? Jag åt helvete. Men medan den här står och håller på. Nevermind, den började. De har en ny introfilm. Är ljuden bra? Den här kanske ska höjas lite.
Spacecraft 4, separation confirmed. Iridium satellite. Spacecraft 7, 10. Final spacecraft deployed.
Sådär. Jag vet inte vad ni tycker, men...
You are looking at a live view of the Falcon 9 rocket on the pad at our Vandenberg Air Force Base launch site as we prepare for liftoff a little over 15 minutes from now. Good morning from SpaceX headquarters.
Okej, hoppas nu att de ska försöka landa noskonerna också.
I'd like to welcome you to the webcast of the Iridium-8 mission. And a particularly special welcome to CEO Matt Desch and the nearly 250 Iridium guests who made the trip out west to watch today's launch. This is the final in a series of 8 launches for our customer Iridium to build their new satellite network, Iridium Next. Our first launch for Iridium was the Iridium-1 mission, which took place on January 14, 2017, almost 2 years from today. Now on this final mission, we're flying 10 Iridium Next satellites to join the 65 satellites previously placed in orbit by SpaceX. Today's launch is scheduled for 7:31 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, or 15 hours 31 minutes Universal Time. As you can see on the timeline bar at the bottom of the display, this is a long mission. Today's webcast will last over an hour. Now following stage separation, we'll be attempting recovery of the first stage on our West Coast drone ship. Just read the instructions. Now for the music fans out there, Iridium has curated another special Spotify playlist to go along with today's launch. To play along at home, search for the Iridium-8 launch soundtrack playlist and get ready to start the playlist at exactly T-minus 12 minutes and 55 seconds before liftoff, just about 30 seconds from now.
Ska man faktiskt göra det? Nej. Det var fett med copyright också. Det var det spelar roll.
Space Launch Complex 4 East at Vandenberg Air Force Base, a place where I worked years ago flying Titan 3s. Now it's just a few hours up the coast from our headquarters here in Hawthorne, California. Now on the screen you can see the two-stage Falcon 9 vehicle.
Men ingen Mr. Steven?
It stands 70 meters tall. That's over 21 stories in height. Now the first stage will provide the initial force to get Falcon 9 out of the majority of Earth's atmosphere. Now you can see in the first stage the soot. That indicates that this booster has flown before. It previously supported the Telstar 18 Vantage mission in September out of Cape Canaveral. So today will be the second flight of that first stage. Now about 2.5 minutes into flight, the first and second stages will separate. That happens right at the joint between that black part of the rocket and then the white second stage up at the very top. Once that happens, the first stage will be coming back. We're attempting to land the booster out at sea on our drone ship located about 250 kilometers downrange. Now from there, we'll follow the second stage as it takes the 10 Iridium Next satellites from the edge of space to their intended orbit. Now we'll see the first shutdown of the second stage. Then we're going to have a 43-minute coast phase before we relight the engine for a short burn, and that will then lead up to deployment of the Iridium satellites. Now those satellites are currently housed at the top of the rocket. You can see in the close-up the 17-foot diameter payload fairing with the Iridium Next 8 logo on it. Now for those of you who are wondering, there's no parachute on the fairing on this mission, so we won't be attempting recovery this time around. But there still is a lot going on for this flight. Finally, the structure you can see, that truss structure next to the Falcon 9 rocket in white, that's the transporter erector. It carries the rocket from the hangar to the pad, and at about T-minus 15 hours, it raised it to the vertical position. That erector carries the plumbing and the electrical systems that are routed to the Falcon 9 and the Iridium satellites. Shortly before launch, at about T-minus 4 minutes, that erector will move 13 degrees away from the rocket. That's a little different than our East Coast launch pads that move away at liftoff.
Okej, men de landar första steget i alla fall. Det är alltid trevligt.
T-minus 10 minutes, 15 seconds, counting down. And as I like to report on the webcast, the good news, team is working, no issues on the rocket. Falcon 9, we began loading propellants at T-minus 35 minutes. Currently, the second stage fuel tank is fully loaded with RP1 kerosene. Fueling is still going on the first stage. That'll finish about 6 minutes before launch. Liquid oxygen loading is underway on both the first and the second stage right now. Now our next major activity coming up in just under 3 minutes is opening the valves between the first stage propellant tanks and the engines. That allows us to chill the turbo pumps prior to the ignition sequence that starts in the last couple of seconds of the countdown. On the customer side, the Iridium team has transferred to internal power at T-minus 15 minutes. They're reporting no issues. They're monitoring the satellites, but they are ready for launch at 31 minutes after the hour. Today we're operating out of Vandenberg and flying over the Western Range. We get similar support for our Eastern Range launches. Today the Air Force is giving us clearance of both the air and the sea space, and they are providing weather support, launching the balloons we need to understand what's happening at the upper altitudes. And speaking of the weather, we all talk about it, but we only can wait and watch what happens with it. Currently the upper altitude looks good. We are watching ground winds at the lower altitude at the launch pad site. I've been looking at that on my telemetry plot. We had a peak a little bit earlier, but the winds seem to be dying down a bit. But we're going to be watching that, especially as we retract the erector about 4.5 minutes from now. But currently the weather looks like it's cooperating. Now in order to correctly position the satellites, the SpaceX team has to launch right on time. So therefore, today's launch window is instantaneous. If we delay for any reason, we do have a backup opportunity tomorrow at 7:25 a.m. Pacific time.
Då hoppas vi att den sätter.
As many of you remember from our previous webcast, Iridium operates a network of 66 satellites in low Earth orbit. Now, including today's flight, we will have sent up enough satellites to replace the original 66, plus an additional 9 in-orbit spares, for a total of 75 Iridium Next satellites. Now, in space, each Iridium Next satellite is cross-linked to 4 other satellites. That creates a dynamic mesh network that provides coverage over 100% of the Earth's surface. This network allows Iridium to deliver high-quality mobile voice and data coverage to the most remote edges of the planet, from the North and South poles to the oceans and the airways. Iridium Next significantly enhances their ability to meet the growing demand for global mobile communications. Let's learn more about Iridium Next.
Det är lite synd detta. De nya Iridium-satelliterna blinkar inte. Eller liksom ger inga fräcka solkatter. I alla fall inte förutsägbara. Som de förra gjorde. Så jag har varit en Iridium-bloss jägare, om man säger så. Jag vill kolla på Iridium-bloss. Men nu finns de inte längre. Och det är synd.
That would revolutionize communications, allowing people to connect to data, devices, and each other from anywhere on Earth. The first Iridium service launched in late 1998. Yet, like earlier communications, Iridium's original satellites needed to be refreshed to keep up with a growing and evolving demand. Iridium embarked on a $3 billion replacement of its global network. With a total of 66 operational satellites, this feat represented the largest technology refresh in history. Now, the countdown to Iridium's 8th and final launch begins. With this launch, Iridium will once again bring their initial bold and audacious vision to life. Because at Iridium, they know connections matter in every area of life, in ways we see and in ways we don't. That is the driving force behind Iridium. Partnering with the best companies throughout the world to enable the most innovative services and solutions possible and imaginable. It is their unwavering commitment to creating the most powerful multi-service broadband platform, Iridium Certus. A massively robust, reliable global service enabled by Iridium's pole-to-pole coverage that will empower people with products that will make a difference in our lives today and create a better world for everyone for generations to come. In the air, on water, and on land. With Iridium, now everything is within reach.
Det lät jävligt fräckt, men det var jävla oklart vad den faktiskt gjorde. Liksom, ja, med RIP streamen. Men hur kommer Iridium påverka mig liksom? Är det när jag ringer folk? Nej. Det tror jag inte. Hur kan min drönare få Iridium? Det är ju väl inga GPS-satelliter och ja, mycket oklart. Men det lät ju bra. Så gött.
And when we do that, the liquid oxygen that we vent overboard will combine with the moist Vandenberg air, and you may see and hear a large white cloud come off the erector. That's normal. We expect that every time. Now, the Falcon 9, as I said, they're looking good, working no issues. The Iridium team, they are ready to go. The range reports that everything looks clear for launch, and the weather has continued to cooperate. The ground winds are high, but it looks like we're within limits, but we're going to be watching those all the way in the last few minutes here. But right now, everything looking good for an on-time launch just after 31 minutes after the hour. Now, as a reminder, we have a backup launch window. If anyone calls hold, that backup is tomorrow, about 5 minutes earlier than today. But for now, everything looking good. We're going to listen and watch on the final minutes of the countdown of Falcon 9 with Iridium next.
Fan vad kvaller det blev då. Vad händer? Jag är jättelångt bak ju. Så ska det vara. Men ja, YouTubes livestreams har blivit kassa.
Falcon 9 is on internal power. Falcon 9 is in startup.
Då hoppas vi att det inte blir någon hold.
This launch director, Falcon 9, go for launch.
Nice.
T-minus 15 seconds.
Vehicles configured for flight.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5,
Vilken epic voice.
3, 2, 1. Ignition. Liftoff of Falcon 9.
Vehicles pitching downrange. Stage 1 props nominal.
T plus 40 seconds, and Falcon 9 is on its way with a countdown of the last 10 seconds by Iridium CEO Matt Desch. We're throttling down now in preparation for the period of maximum dynamic pressure.
Vehicle supersonic.
Garcia on countdown 1, first motion time 15:31:33.492 UTC.
Calling out the time there of liftoff over the net.
Acquisition of signal.
We're through the period of maximum dynamic pressure.
Maximum aerodynamic pressure.
Merlin engines continuing to perform at 1.7 million pounds of thrust. Falcon 9 heading out into the upper atmosphere. Nice view from the first stage camera looking aft. We're headed south from Vandenberg Air Force Base, Space Launch Complex 4 East.
MVAC engine chill.
The MVAC engine cheer call out indicates that we have now opened up the oxygen that goes to the pump on the second stage engine, chilling it down for ignition, coming up about a minute from now. We're hearing good call outs. Propulsion looks nominal, the trajectory looks good. Now coming up will be rapid fire events. Main engine cutoff, we shut down the 9 Merlin 1D engines. At 2.5 minutes we will separate the stages. We'll light the second stage engine, and at just a little bit after that, we'll relight 3 engines on the first stage to begin slowing it down for landing in the Pacific Ocean on our drone ship.
Stage separation confirmed. MVAC ignition.
Stage 1 has entered its flip.
So we've had successful shutdown of the first stage. It's separated. It's doing the flip to reorient, and it's lit its 3 engines to begin slowing it down to come to the drone ship. Meanwhile, on the right-hand side of the display, second stage engine has ignited, begin propelling the Iridium satellites. You can see them there as we get ready for fairing separation.
Fairing separation confirmed.
Stage 1 boost valve shutdown.
A lot of events happening. You saw the fairing separate, and you can see one half of the fairing drifting away behind the second
Nice,
stage.
nice.
On the right-hand side of the display, on the left side, we've had shutdown from the boost back burn, and you can see the titanium grid fins slowly extending. That's nominal for those grid fins. The white flashing you see, that is attitude control gas, nitrogen, that's used to orient the first stage. We're coming up 4 minutes into flight. In about a minute and a half, the first stage will initiate a quick re-entry burn to again slow the rocket down as it re-enters Earth's atmosphere. A minute later, we'll perform the final burn, the landing burn, which will decelerate the vehicle to a gentle landing atop our drone ship. Just read the instructions. Now, as a reminder, recovery is always a secondary objective to our primary goal of delivering our customers' satellites to orbit. Views you have right now, the camera on the left is looking up the inner stage where there used to be a second stage. Now we're looking at the grid fins with the Pacific Ocean in the background. Meanwhile, on the right-hand side, the MVAC-D second stage engine running about 200,000 pounds of thrust in the vacuum of space. You can see the nozzle glowing red hot. That's nominal for that nozzle. We're about half a minute away from the entry burn. This one will also be a 3-engine burn. That'll slow the vehicle down as we go to subsonic speeds, and then eventually a final burn a little bit after that to land on the drone ship. Getting excellent views as the sun has risen recently over the west coast here in the United States.
Stage 1 entry burn has started.
Call out the
Nice.
engine burn on stage 1 has started. 3 engines up and running.
Stage 1 entry burn shut down.
And the entry burn shutdown called out over the countdown net, as you heard.
Stage 1 FTS is saved.
Everything continuing to look good. First stage entry burn has ended. We're less than a minute until the
Jävlar vad man kommer in i molnen här nu alltså.
by touchdown on the drone ship, and you can see the first stage descending back down through the atmosphere as it's coming up on the cloud deck. Now, as a reminder, we may lose live video coverage on the drone chip as the engine exhaust degrades the radio frequency signal. Now, if that happens, we'll share status updates on the first stage as they become available.
Fan vad tätt med moln det är.
Drone chip AOS means the drone chip has acquired the signal. Center engine has lit. We're slowing ourselves down, preparing to find the drone ship right underneath us. You've got the camera view from the drone ship now. Waiting to see the first stage come into view.
Oh.
And we're getting the signal drop out, which is not unusual. We're gonna keep pressing on. We have not heard confirmation.
Falcon 9 has landed. Landing operators moving to 11.1.
Nice.
There you go. We heard the call out from recovery. Falcon 9 has landed. We hope to get a shot of it on the deck of the drone ship a little bit later, but we can confirm we're down with the first stage. We're pressing on the second stage mission. Currently, trajectory looks good. We've begun throttling down the Merlin vacuum engine, maintaining the G-load on the Iridium Next satellites. And we've got the view back.
Där är han ju.
There it is, right in the middle of the bullseye. The first stage is back again, down on Earth.
Nice.
Meanwhile, second stage is getting ready in less than 20 seconds for shutdown and entry into the parking orbit.
Stage 2 MTS is safe.
Coming up on shutdown of the second stage engine, and we've had shutdown.
Shutdown.
Now we're going to wait for the guidance officer to give us a report on the orbit.
What's the signal, Hawthorne, as expected?
Looking up right now,
Nominal orbit insertion.
it sounds like we have a good orbit insertion. Looking at apogee, perigee, inclination,
Nice.
everything's looking good. So we're 9.5 minutes into flight. We've got a satisfactory parking orbit. We're now going to go into a coast phase. This is about a 43-minute period while we coast over to Africa, where we will then relight the upper stage engine and then eventually deploy the
Okej, jag vill också visa lite grejer. Har vi Elon Musk här någonstans? Här är han ju. De har just byggt klart sin hopper för deras nästa stora skepp. Super Heavy Starship. Men detta är bara Starship. Och inte ens hela Starship utan bara en liten Starship. Fast alltså det där är en människa. Så den är fortfarande rätt stor. Men den är inte lika stor som den riktiga Starship ska bli. Men ja, detta är alltså en riktig bild. Helt galet. Den blänkar så jävla fint. Och den ser så jävla sjuk ut. Alltså den här finns nu. Är inte det helt galet? Liksom, den finns och den är redo att flyga om 2-3 månader. Och här är någon privatperson som har filmat den. Så den finns verkligen. Men om vi går till SpaceX, jag vill visa er en annan grej. På tal om att återanvända fairings eller noskoner. Den här videon visar ett test han gjorde med en fairing. Så en helikopter bär upp den här och släpper den. Och så har vi då den här jävligt snabba stora båten med ett gigantiskt nät som bara leker apport med noskonen. Så noskonen fixar sig en fallskärm så att den kan styra och så. Och sen har vi den här då. En sån jävla stor och snabb båt. Och så här missar de på gränsen liksom. Ja, det var ett gott försök. Ett gott försök. Men det kan bli riktigt coolt om det faktiskt funkar i framtiden. Även om det kommer typ inte behöva funka så mycket i framtiden. För när de här börjar flyga på riktigt, om typ 1 år eller 2, då kommer den här kunna återanvändas helt. Och de kommer inte ha några noskoner, utan hela raketen kommer vara en del liksom. Eller ja, hela det steget i alla fall. Så, yeah, det var typ det. Men jag kommer inte sitta kvar här och kolla igenom hela den här coastfacen och sen deploysen. Utan jag går offline nu. Vill ni se resten av streamen och så gå in på SpaceX.com och kolla där istället. Men tack att ni har suttit med och kollat. Hoppas att det var kul. Och så ser vi fram emot nya tider för rymdteknologin. Prenumerera för mera, så ses vi nästa avsnitt. Ja, nu tänker jag göra. Eller livestream.